Okay, so now we're going to test the capacitor. There are a few ways to test it. If you have a meter at hand, it will be a lot easier. So let's do it. Just gonna put it here so it'll be easier to show you. Okay. So the voltage, it's 3.5, 0.8, 0.7. So this tells us that the capacitor is most likely working. There are other ways to do it, like if you have a 9 volts battery or a 12 volts battery like this one, it's a motorcycle or no brake battery, you can also use it like this. So one thing that is important is that you have to respect the range of the capacitor. If you have a capacitor that is like 5 volts, you cannot charge it with 12, 20 or any higher than 5. So keep that in mind. This one is 450, so we're safe. 450 volts. So let's test it with 12 volts, which is the no brake battery. This capacitor is actually bipolar, so it doesn't matter if you mix the poles here, the terminals. So let's charge it. Okay, that's enough. Now let's see how the meter reads it. You see there? 12 volts. It's going lower and lower, but you know, that's what it does. It doesn't like retain it forever. Now let's test it with a higher voltage with the switching power supply. Okay, so if you don't have a meter, you can also use like LED lamps, whatever is the voltage that you have charged the capacitor. In this case, 12 volts, right? I have this here. It's a LED lamp. I took it from my car, and it's very low consumption, so it's just going to blink and see it. That tells us the capacitor is working. What if you don't have a meter and you don't have like a tester like the LED lights or whatever? You can also use a tool, just like I said at first in the video. But this way is a little more difficult to tell if the capacitor is working or not. But if you don't have anything else, so remember the protection glasses. Let's do it. Let's charge it. You're going to see a little sparkle, and that tells us the capacitor is working. Charging it. Okay. I don't know if you guys can see it in a video, but yeah, it worked. Let's try to do it with a higher voltage because the sparkle will be more intense in this case. have here a switching power supply. It's like 25 volts. Let's test it. Okay, 25. Let's charge it. It's charged. Let's check. $25. So now the sparkle will be a little more intense. Okay, if you don't have batteries, a switching power supply, you can also use another thing, but it's actually very dangerous and it can be lethal. So I encourage you not to do it if you're not comfortable dealing with electricity and, you know, yeah, I don't encourage it at all. Okay, so let's go for the dangerous method. Again, don't do it if you don't know what you're doing and if you're not comfortable dealing with electricity, because what you're going to do is we're going to take the voltage straight from the outlet, which here it's 220. The capacitor range is 450, so we are more than safe. So let's do it. So start with one pole first, one terminal, because you don't want to be messing with, you know, both ends in your hands. So first one here. Okay, so it's safer this way. And the second one, let's check the voltage. If it's 220, there, 216, yeah, about 220. It's never 220, but so let's charge it real quick. Okay, it's enough. Let's unplug it all. Don't touch the terminals. Now the sparkle. Yeah, the camera girl got scared, but that's how intense it is. So those were some of the methods that you can test a capacitor. But in this case, that doesn't necessarily mean that this capacitor is working 100%. What happens is, if the acid inside it is wearing out, when the motor demands a much higher load from it, that's where the problem is. And when the problem is intermittent, it's very hard to, you know, run tests. You have to just replace it and see what happens.